that's a Mac SE right behind you, right?
Yes, yes, it was my
Wow.
first machine. So
Wow.
that was my first machine, and I still got it. It does
Wow, that's so
power
cool.
on. It does power on, but it makes such a noise. I don't think you could possibly use it in this current age. Certainly couldn't use it in a quiet office. It's so noisy.
I haven't used a diskette in over 15, 20 years.
I've got the floppy disk somewhere for FileMaker 1, so I can see where I can try and get it working, but I'm not sure it would work on it. But thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to the 83rd meeting. I can't believe we've done 83 of these, but there you go. I haven't done all of them. Jules done most of them. So we keep on going. We trundle on. Tonight we've got obviously various talks from various people. So we've got Vince talking about why you need the next version of Inspector Pro. And we all know why we need it because we just need it. So that's fine. Followed by me doing some news. And then there's FM20925, a function that will grab your attention from Johan. EngageU from Johan as well as a quick update. And then Doug's joining us towards the end with a quick update as well. And I've got a question to ask everyone, which I will keep you hanging for that one. And if you stick around, you'll have the question, and hopefully one of you merry folk can answer it. So I will pass the baton over to Vince.
Thanks for having me. This is a presentation that's going to be maybe abbreviated in some degree because it's a longer presentation I gave at Dig FM. So mostly it's under the title of technical debt, till technical debt do us part. And so it blends in some of the benefits of using a tool like Inspector. By the way, with the release of Inspector 9, which we released in July, alongside the release of Claris FileMaker 2025 or 22, whichever preference you have for the version number, but it has now become a free tool. So you can go to the website and download your copy and get an activation code and start using it. So, okay, so oh yeah. The other thing I'd like to say is that feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions along the way. It's not meant to be, it's I'm hoping also to be part discussion as much as possible too. So, all right, let me see, get this out of the way here. So till technical debt do us part. I like to refer to technical debt as also technical death. And that's because I like to start off my presentations of what if you came into work one day and a client came up to you and said, we have a system that we need you to help us on. And you start looking at their relationship graph and this is what happens. And, this is 50%. And just trying to get around in it is slow because every time you move, it has to redraw and everything. So again, I won't put you through the pain of seeing all of these 3 minutes. I'll just zoom out to the end of it, and you still see that it's still redrawing. This is the kind of system, or a lot of systems I've seen have accumulated so much debt, so much technical debt that you actually don't get anything done eventually. And that's like what I like to refer to as technical death, because you're trying to dissect or understand some part of it. Let's say you're taking this over. Someone who knows might have passed it along to you for whatever reason. They retired or they passed away, whatever. As you kind of inspect one thing and go down the rabbit hole, it's just endless. And you get to a point where you look at your watch and say, "Oh, I got to go pick up my kids." It's the kind of thing where you don't get anything done, and that's what I refer to as technical death. I come from this affliction from my mom. My mom used to have a house where she was affected by this, and you don't think about it, but everything comes at a cost. So if you have to acknowledge one piece of something, You have to decide whether I keep it or store it or put it somewhere or clean it, whatever. All that takes time. And if you have too many things, it goes beyond the physical constraints of what's possible in a day or a time. And this is just one room. So the term technical debt was coined by Ward Cunningham. I'll let you look it up on Wikipedia, but there's more to learn about what he came up with. But this one here, this is a great talk by Adam Thornhill. He's a C programmer, and he talks about technical debt, but in the context of business impact of code quality. And it's one of my favorite talks about technical debt, but not necessarily technical debt, but also code quality. So it's just really great because when you realize that if your code base is in a very good and structured state, then when your client comes to you, if you're an in-house developer, maybe your boss comes to you, whatever the case may be, and says, "Oh, we have to embrace this new thing that everybody's doing." And it means that we have to create some kind of connection to the database, whatever. And and if you try to do this and you're not successful because you don't know where to start because the code base is a mess, then it impacts the business opportunity and thus the business impact of code quality. So I invite you to listen to it. It's a really great talk. Moving too quickly, in the context of FileMaker, we trade code quality for delivering something quickly, and our code ends up in a worse place than when we started. So some things that I took away from his talk. Also, and I listened to this person. He's a YouTuber, Matthew Berman, and we're at an inflection point. We're already on the slope, basically, and things are accelerating with AI so dramatically that AI is going to have an impact on how we code. And so getting your code also in a good shape, maybe AI can help you. Who knows? We'll see. So anyway, segue to Inspector 9. We try and kind of focus on these three main areas: collaboration, performance, and intelligence. The performance one is really one of the biggest things in 9 because we switched over to using save a copy as XML, and that can be automated. You could script it. It can run on server. It can run on a schedule. But the biggest bang for the buck is that the first analysis gobbles up everything, and then every subsequent analysis is only the things that have changed. So anyway, I'll talk about it in a little bit more, but collaboration is a big piece also for us because when we work on projects, we're also working together as a team. So it's not just, one person working. So it has, we've integrated GitHub and GitLab support. We have an add-on, so you can add the add-on so that you can trigger the triggering of running the analysis right from the add-on in your solution. It has some AI features, multi-user collaboration, tags and notes, logicator support, global search, and problem and history tracking. It also has actions and notifications that was added in 9. So that's kind of a cool feature, and we'll talk about that as well. It has also a very high level dashboard for a global multi-analysis visualization. So you can see how you're trending in terms of your fixing your problems or how much code is being changed, etc. Okay, so again, I mentioned it's yours, it's free. You can download it from the Beeswax site. Again, you just need an activation code to get it up and running. It runs on Mac and Linux. Unfortunately, we still don't have Windows. It's been a thorn in our side that we're still trying to figure out how to get the Windows build to kind of run and work. So, but Mac and Linux is available. So just again on the performance side, comparing to so we released Inspector 8 last I guess last year, and then this year we released Inspector 9. So Inspector 7, so before 8, because this is when we switched over to save a copy as XML. Every analysis in an inspector was gobbling up everything. So after 100 analyses, your file could be 2-3 gigabytes in size, and it would just restate everything over and over again. So if you had 27,000 items, fields, scripts, layouts, all those items would get imported over for every analysis. So again, it would inflate the file. The file would get slower on importing just because people were constantly adding to it. But with 8, there's and 9, we take a completely different approach. The first analysis, like we call as a baseline, it grabs everything, and then every subsequent analysis, it basically looks through the catalog. It looks at the XML. The XML has different sections, and they're called catalogs, and it looks to see which catalogs have changed, and then it drills into that section to find the items that have been changed, added, or deleted, and then imports or updates those. And so you can have like Inspector was one system that we ran on itself, and the shortest time we had it run was probably about 11 seconds, and the longest time was probably a few minutes. And it depends on the amount of things that it finds in the analysis. So if you run it frequently, your system can stay current. And the other beauty is that this is a one-to-one representation to what's in your system, so it's not going to grow. So like Inspector 7 used to grow. So that means that if you have 1,000 scripts and you refactor 100 of them and you get rid of them, so now you're going to have 900 scripts. 900 scripts is what you're going to have in Inspector. The only place where it grows is in the history, detailing that this script was removed or this script was changed, etc. So so it's going to have the same footprint. It's not going to grow dramatically, and so that keeps it very, very nimble and lightweight. Again, save a copy as XML. Think of it as XML 2.0 or DDR 2.0. And the main thing I want to point out is, and if you haven't looked at it, if you dig into the XML, each of the catalogs have this kind of attributes, and the items also, most of them have these attributes. Not all of them, unfortunately, but most of them will have modifications, the username, account name, and timestamp along with the UUID.
Wait,
Yeah,
could you
go ahead.
explain which one that currently do not have an object ID like this one, and what that might cause, or how we handle that?
Yeah, so for example, layout objects don't have modification counts, username, account name, and timestamp. So like if you have two objects on a layout, like a text field and a field, a text object and a field, you'll just have a UUID and a hash. And the hash is able to tell you if the object changed. But unfortunately, because it doesn't have the username, account name, timestamp, and modifications, we don't know how many times that thing changed. We don't know who was the last person to change it, and when it was changed, right? So all we know is that it changed, and we can document that. But there's a reason for that, and Clay would be the person to kind of dig into those details. But layout objects, script steps, and custom menu items don't have that. I think, if I remember correctly, layout parts also don't have it, and maybe styles. Styles is a weird thing altogether, anyway. But so yeah, so there's a few places that don't have it. So if you look at a script and you change it, then your name will be the person on it that will show up, and the timestamp as to when you saved it, right? And it'll say how many modifications of the script were have been changed, how many changes were made to the script along the way. But if you don't run the analysis at that time when you change the script, then you go in and make a change, and someone else makes a change. Now the modification count goes up another notch, and that other person's name becomes there. So when inspector sees it, it sees, it says, oh, this changed, and this is the person who last changed it, and this is when they changed it, right? But unfortunately, there isn't an easy and reliable way to record all the changes. And at some point, when Claris tackles, GitHub integration, they're going to have to deal with this as well. And the way they might deal with it, I can't speculate, but they're going to have to deal with it at the point that you save the schema change for that item. They would have to write out, something either in some directory or check it into Git or whatever, and then record that change. Another kind of offshoot to what you mentioned is that it's a multi-development environment. And if you have someone in the same file working on layouts and you're in scripts, and that person goes from layout to browse mode, making changes continually, they are making changes to those objects on a layout. And that layout would also get modification changes, and their name is associated with the layout. But if you're in script workspace and you make a change, and you then run the analysis, their items will come along for the ride, because it outputs the whole XML, and that's for the XML for the entire file. And thus it will find not only the script changes, but it will also find the layout changes. And so the good thing is that at least the attribution is there for the person who saved it, right? So you'll be able to see that this was attributed to that person, etc. So there's that thing that they would also have to, decide how to handle it. But anyway, I can't speculate for their future as to how they do it. So does that answer your question? Sorry, a little bit winding.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. This is a new feature, I believe, in 2025, and this is update layouts when schema changes happen. And if you check that checkbox, then what's going to happen is when you add a field, let's say you change a field name. What the current behavior of FileMaker is kind of like a legacy behavior. As soon as you make that schema change, it also has built into it from the years and years where it will update all the layouts where it sees that field. And so if the label changed, it will try and change the label associated with that field. If you delete the field, it will also go through all the layouts and try to delete the field. I suggested that they don't do this because obviously I haven't made a layout change, so they shouldn't, technically make those layout changes. And I should only let the XML represent whatever changes of schema that I've actually made, right? So this, if you leave this unchecked, then when you change a field, it's not going to do this other side effect where it's going to update layouts, and the XML is going to see that the layouts have been updated even though you haven't updated them. And the other problem that this old legacy behavior had was that it was inconsistent. So if you had the same field on 10 layouts and you delete that field, on one layout it's gone, on another layout it says field missing, on another layout it's gone, on another layout it'll say field missing. So it was inconsistent behavior, and it's buggy, and they never got around to really fixing it. So you're best off to just leave it unchecked, and then when you actually make changes to layouts, then those are picked up. So let's see here. This one here, yeah, so this is just talking about that setting. And so this is actually a video. I'm not going to bother showing the video. I just already explained the behavior, and so let's see here. Okay, this is kind of an interesting trend that's been happening with the XML, and I've been complaining about this. So in 21, the XML for the same file was 182 megabytes. In XML in 21.1 was a little bit bigger, and that's because they added this this new option where you say include details for analysis tool. So when you generate that XML, you'll get a different section that will output all the chunks of the calculations, and so the XML gets a little bit inflated with all this other info, but that information is really important so that analysis tools can then give you insights into this field is referenced by, this other calculation, etc., or this function is referenced in that calculation. So otherwise, it's a mess. And now in 22, they made it even worse because if you have a graphic on a layout and you have the same graphic on 10 layouts, let's say it's your logo and it's some JPEG or whatever, that image, the base64 encoded version of that image is output on every single layout it's on. Before that,
do you know if that's going to change? Because that's a dramatic
yeah,
it's going to be really
yeah,
impacting us bad in all places.
yeah, no, that's already changed. I complained about it, and then they added another flag, and that's coming. That's already been addressed. So at least the listening to the feedback and making changes. But again, I can't say that it's in ETS. But I can't say for sure that it's going to be in a release, because at the last minute they can decide whatever, they can pull it, they can decide to change their mind and then it won't be there. But right now it is there, and you can have the option to say, don't include it on every layout. Don't ever include it on every layout. Just include it in the library. That's how it was before. So anyway, the XML will become smaller, hopefully, and it will be quicker to generate. So and there's other feedback too. But in Vienna, Clay gave a talk and said that they're working on a lot more XML stuff as well too, and mostly because they're also doing it for the update tool and for other things like recreating a file from XML. So they're paying attention to investing time and energy in the XML. So there's more work coming. Okay, this is the same kind of thing. Just expressing the frustration that because the file is getting larger, it takes more time to generate as well, and it's bigger. So, but hopefully they're going to be making improvements to be able to save time with that. Okay. Kind of all talked about this, but anyway, this is kind of like me asking for things when I was presenting this. But I want to bring your attention to one of the guiding kind of I guess North Stars that we had. Collaboration, performance, and intelligence. But this was one of them that I kind of looked at everything that we did was always to help you kind of stay in the zone. And the idea was, okay, so one of the superpowers of FileMaker is the ability to iterate. And so like you're in layout mode and you make a change, you go to browse mode, and you continuously kind of chiseling away to craft exactly how you would want it to look, or you're refining a script, etc. The last thing you want to have happen is to interrupt that workflow and say, oh, I need to generate a DDR. And now you start generating a DDR and it takes like 3 minutes to generate. And then you forget your trend of thought. And it's like, what was I doing? Oh yeah, okay, whatever. We wanted to get out of the way. And so even with the development of the add-on. So for example, I can't remember if this is the recording that shows that, but let me see. That's not it. Hold on. Let me see, because this slide deck has a lot of stuff in it. This is not it. Yeah. So the idea was that this is about, adding the add-on and how the add-on works. Basically, once you add the add-on to a solution and you configure it to run with Inspector, when you're ready to run it, you basically call it up and then just type in a message and hit return. And as soon as you hit return, it's running on a server. So it really gets out of the way. The other way you can do it is you can just hold the Option key down and click on the button. And this way you don't have to type a message. It just starts running. And so this video is going to show how to add the add-on, right? So basically, once you add the add-on, you drag it on the layout. It gives you a button, and that button then allows you to, put in the solution ID that Inspector generated. And then in the next video, what I'm showing is you go to settings, you put your server address in there, and that's pretty much it. You're all set up. And so once you put your solution ID, type in a message, hit return, or click the button, it's running on the server. The other way you could do this is just write a script schedule and call the script that's been inserted into your solution. And you can set it to run every minute or every 5 minutes. And then this way, you never have to interrupt your developers, never have to worry about running it. It just runs in the background, and it collects information if it sees anything.
Can I ask a quick question here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is the add-on mandatory? Like, do we need to install the add-on in a solution before we can use?
No, you don't have to install the add-on if you don't want to have it integrated that way. So if you want to, let me see if I covered in the next videos. Yeah, I covered in the next slides here.
Okay, no,
so
great. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you don't install the add-on, there's a couple of other ways you could run Inspector. So first off, you have your files. You generate the XML beforehand, and you save it all into a folder. And then you come here in Inspector, and let's say, hopefully it's hosted, because then it just runs in the background. Otherwise, you have to wait for it. It's running on your machine. So all what you do is here is you say, if you manually upload it, then you click run, and then it will ask you for the directory where you put the XML. And then what it'll do is it'll transfer the files to the server and then process them on the server. So the other option is the API method, which is when you have the add-on, what this will do is it'll call the script in the add-on directly, and then it'll generate the XML files on the server and then run it that way. So this is the API integration. And the other option is window names. So you have the files open locally, or they could be hosted. And you have these window names for each file that you have opened with full access. And when you tell Inspector to do this, you can actually generate XML for a file that you're not even in by running a script by telling what window name you want the XML generated for. And as long as that file is open with full access, you can generate XML for that file from a script in another file, which is a little bit odd, but it works. And so what that'll do is it has the logic in it to iterate over each of the files listed. It'll put it all in one place. And the same like with the manual upload, it'll send all the XML to the server, and then it'll run it that way. The beauty of, Ian, the beauty of the integration is that you can schedule it, or you can run it from Inspector, or you can run it from the solution. So it can run from different places. And the other beauty of it is if you're working with hosted files, do not generate the XML from a hosted file. It takes way too long to generate. And if you were to do the window names method and these files were hosted, you'd be waiting a really long time to generate the XML locally. And then it would send it back to the server to process it. So you know, you have to figure out what's best for you. Does that answer your question, Ian?
Yep, that does. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, script schedule. I talked about this already. All you really need is the account name and password, and then the database that you're targeting, and the script that you're calling, and that's it. The script is the script that gets imported from the add-on, and that's it. You just schedule it for however frequency that you want it to run. So external systems can also invoke processing. So yeah, like I said, you can run it from a schedule. Adding users. So again, this video kind of goes through a few things. So if you want to add other users to also use with Inspector, you can put in you know, their name, their email address, their account name, and then you can set them as either an Inspector Pro user or an admin user. If you set them up as an Inspector Pro user, you then have the option to give them the ability to create their own solutions, create and edit and delete their own solutions. Otherwise, if they don't have that option and you add them as a member to a solution, they can only view solutions that they are part of, and they can, you know, obviously run an analysis if they're doing development, etc., but they cannot create their own solutions or delete solutions, etc. So if you do have a Slack member ID, you can put it in there. If you have the get access token for the person, you can also put it in here, and we can talk about get later. So once you've created a user, then the next thing you want to do is add them as a member. So in this example here, you select the user, you select the role, and then you say add as a member. So then they get added as a member to be able to see that solution. So one of the fun things that Inspector helps with is uncovering problems. And you know, all tools, all three tools that are out there kind of reveal where these problems are and help you kind of address them. Well, it doesn't help you address them, but it actually points to you. It points them out for you to address them, I should say. But the interesting thing is that in different areas of FileMaker, it's really easy to add problems. So if you don't use one of these tools, then you are kind of and you have a large system, you tend to probably avoid deleting things because you just don't know if they're going to have consequences. You don't know where they're used, so there's no references to where things are used. So in this example, for you know, if I look at the dashboard for this system, we sell art, and I go look at let's say tables. I'll look at the artist table, and then I'll look at this field that says delete me. It has 3 references, right? And there's a visual way to look at it, and then there's a listing way to look at it. It's on a layout, it's in a script step, and it's in a value list. Now, if I didn't have a tool like this, and I go into We Sell Art, and I delete that field that I was just showing you, and I just go ahead and delete it. Now, FileMaker will warn you, you know, in some cases it will warn you to tell you, oh, it's used in a script. Are you sure you want to delete it? But if you hold the Option key down, you just skip the warnings, just delete it. You know what you're doing, and there it's gone. And now I'm processing it. I'm typing a message and run it, and you'll see now that I'll have introduced 3 problems. Okay, so you'll see in the problem area that now there's 3 problems. And so I can look at this, I can look at the 3 problems, it brings up a report, and then so now at least I can go track those problems down and fix them. But the thing is that what I'm trying to point out is that without a tool that gives you insights as to where things are referenced, you're kind of working in the blind, and you're not able to refactor, code, remove, things that are dormant, not used. You definitely need to use something, either just, trolling the XML for references to that, field UUID or that field ID, or using one of these tools to look at that. Fixing problems, of course, once you see the problem in Inspector, you can click on it. It'll take you to the item, and you can go fix it. So, for example, I'm going to go to that layout, and I'm going to fix. So there's the field that was deleted. So I remove it, and I'm going to fast forward through here a little bit. I'm going to go through value list. There's the field that I broke over there. So I'm going to change it to another field. And then the last one is the script. So there's the field that also got affected in the script. So I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to run Inspector, fix problems. And then you'll see up here that those 3 problems disappear. So now you have, the ability to also monitor those and see that you have a clean system. Any questions so far?
No,
Okay.
all good. All good.
Hey,
Okay.
can I jump
Yep.
in? Vince,
Yeah.
and everybody, I dropped a link to something Vince talked about, very important, change of field, and it changes text on layouts from DigFM. I'm going to add a name to that. The other thing I just wanted to mention for echo or, emphasis, what you said, Vince, about the idea that when you make a code change, whether it's a schema, script, this and that, if FileMaker could capture that change very atomically, wow, wouldn't that make a huge difference in being able to do diffs and stuff like that? Is that very much on their radar? I was going to suggest that, but it sounds like it's already being thought about. Did that make sense?
Well, Tony, they already have a plugin API for schema notifications. So for example, if I go to scripts and I make a change to a script and I save the script, and our plugin is able to the registers for those schema notifications, that plugin API will only work for a plugin that runs on server. It won't work for a plugin that runs locally. So plugin is on server, it registers for the notification, it receives the notification, and then it says, okay, this catalog, this item, it got changed, right?
Yeah,
so
that's a diff. That's a diff right there.
Well, yes and no, but the problem is this. Generating the XML, hold on 1 second. Oh, I can't do this right now. Sorry. I can't do this. Can't do it.
Generating the XML.
So if you have a large file and you're like in layout mode, and you go from layout mode to browse mode, and you don't have the option to ask you to save, it's implicitly saving the layout. And thus it's doing a commit to that schema element. And thus it's going to generate the XML. And if you saw my first slide, it's going to take 18 seconds to generate the XML, right? So now you've got this, this thing where the production line is like going way too quickly, and you can't keep up with okay, I generated the XML, I'm waiting for it to process, but I got another request, and now it's generating the XML again, and it's like, it just can't keep up. And so I asked Claris that they should generate micro XMLs for just the XML that changed. So just generate the XML for that layout, ideally layout object, but in this case, it would have to be for the whole layout, but or a script or whatever. And then that way, that could be done like literally in less than a second, and we could process it in less than a second. So that's the goal, but I don't know how quickly we'll get there.
Well, I think you know what they need, and then obviously it's not easy to code any of this. None of it's easy, but that sounds like the direction. Number one. Number two, Vince, if you put that together with the thing that you just mentioned about the fact if you change a field name, it has a potential cascading effect to the layouts. So like those secondary effects would have to be captured as well. But if you put those two, that's all I can see in terms of, the gold standard of diffing. So anyway, I'm glad you just mentioned both of those, and I'm glad that you're talking with Claris about them.
Yeah, Clay
Just to
said it's
follow
a
on from
per,
Tony's
yeah.
question really, really quickly. What you said about the notification, is that in the current shipping product or is it
Yeah.
ETS?
Yeah, it's in the current shipping product. So you could write a plugin today, register for a notification. However, the catalog, the catalogs, it tells you, I think there's still work needing to be done, because like sometimes it'll tell you something changed in this catalog, and it's like, okay, which thing changed? Like, can you tell me an ID of the thing that changed in the catalog? And there's still work needing to be done there.
Yeah.
And like I said before, if you have a small system, it's peanuts. It generates the XML, you run it, it's done. But if you have a large, like some of these systems are huge, Inspector, it's just not going to keep up.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so this is a new feature we added in 9, actions and notifications. And this is, so for example, I have a solution selected. I can say, send me a notification every time, let's say this field, every time a field is created in any file, because you can have a multi-file solution, or in a specific file. So I can register this notification, and at the last minute, we weren't able to ship the email notifications, but we were shipping with Slack notifications. And so that means if I go into a system or that system and I add a field, right, then it's going to send me a Slack notification. Hey, a field got added in that system. Also, likewise, I can go in here and say this script is an API script. I want to register a notification every time this script is modified. Okay. So when this script gets modified, I want to receive a notification. And so think about that for a second, because what I was just saying before about, changes to catalogs, if I have a script and that script relies on a layout. Okay, so I'm registering other notifications because I can do this on multiple records as well. Let's say these are API layouts and I want to register notifications on a group of records. I could do it on a group of records, on a single record, on a global level. So it's all kinds of various things. So for example, if ever you release a file to a client and they have full access and you want to make sure that they never run and make any changes, you can also create a notification to be notified if the file changes, the hash of the file gets changed from the schema point of view. So you can register all kinds of notifications. So going back to the example I mentioned before, so in this case here, I have a field, and that field is part of that script. If I go into this system, and I go and delete that field, right? We are tracking the fact that the field got removed. That's a table change. That's a change in that table. But as a byproduct, the script got changed. Now, but I never changed the script. So when I run this, what's going to happen is, because there's this interdependency between objects that are referenced by a script, we have this whole mapping. So I get a notification telling me like, hey, your script got changed, right? The script that you were watching got changed, but we never changed the script directly. This is an indirect change. And so it tracks both the changes that happen directly by a person changing the script, and also by indirect changes to the script, because something that the script depended on also got changed. So it's very comprehensive, and it can help you stay on top of things if you need to make sure that a certain script or whatever component of your system is reliable, or not getting changed. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I've got a question, but that's great because if you work on, like we always used to, we had 3 different developers working on one product, and we work live. We don't work in staging either. So as a consequence of that, you could set certain areas to be notified, so we could all get notified. So if any developer changes it, you get notified that that change has then been committed. So that's really useful. It keeps you in sync with the development cycle of what you're working on, which is great.
Yep.
Also, how would it work on a very large, complicated file? Would it notify, if you were saying, I want a field change, you were saying it could do all the dependencies of a solution. Some of our solutions had like, I don't know, 25, 30 files, quite complicated, lots of tables, lots of fields in those. It would be able to notify across the whole solution for any change.
Yeah, so you can do like a global notification, a general notification across the entire system. So you say anytime a field is changed, either in any file or in this specific file, right?
Yeah.
So you can register a notification. So that way you could say, you know, send me a notification anytime a field is modified in any file, right?
Yeah.
The other example I said before, let's say you put a copy of Inspector on a production server. You could run an analysis at a scheduled time once a day, and you could register for a notification if the hashes of any of the files have changed.
Yeah.
And so that means, what that means is someone went in on production and made a change to something. You can then look at the log in Inspector to see, oh, it looks like someone did a hot fix to a layout, and they changed a button or something like that. But that's a great way to also, if you're very strict about not allowing changes to production, this is a great way to monitor that.
Yeah,
So
we had our own internal login that we always did. So if anyone went in there, you had to log this, make a request, make sure it was all signed off before you do it. But then if the developer then goes in and goes, I'm going to now commit that task, at least someone that's not doing that job gets a notification that that task has been completed. If we then start getting 50 support calls from users going, this is an issue, at least you've got some sort of tracking that something's been done. So that's a great feature. Superb.
Well, there's actually one other case where that'd be super useful, and this is going way, way back to a project that Nikolai and I worked on together years ago. And the client was also doing development. And the client developer was not necessarily the best. And so I'd occasionally get the client coming to me saying, like, Nikolai broke something. And I was darn sure Nikolai did not break something. But
yep.
And we would basically go back to Nikolai's last backup, copy his code, paste it in, and it would all work. And it was pretty darn clear that their developer had just gone in and made a bunch of random changes, and this kind of stuff would highlight that very nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it has attribution, right? So if you looked at the script,
exactly,
you could be able to also tell who's the last person to make that change. So we have 10 more minutes left. I could go on for another hour, but I want to make sure I cover the things that are most critical. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, I'll start here. I'll skip over a few things. Hopefully, let me see. Yeah, okay, I'll cover a few more items. So Inspector also has this concept of tags, and I see that in the XML, but I never, they have never exposed it for use, and so I don't know what their plans are about it. But anyway, in Inspector, you'll see a tags button over here, and that's just to toggle it on or off. But if in the header, I can set up the tags. So for example, I already have to do, fix, and refactor. And, I create another tag. I can also add a URL to the tag. So if it's for a specific ticketing system, you can enter the URL for that tag. And then on a script, you can mark the tags and associate the tags to scripts or fields or layouts or tables or whatever. And once you do that, and this is doing it for custom functions. Okay, so if I go to the dashboard, I can do type refactor or hit return, and I'll see everywhere where I added that tag. So you can search by tags as well. So that's another handy feature that you can use for tags. And you can also search using Logicator to find tags in specific categories, and you can also remove them as a group in the found set, or you can remove them individually. So tags and notes work in the same way. So you can attach notes to items and search on notes and tags. Global search, again, I showed that just before. Let's see, kind of running out of time. So let me look at a few last things. I'll talk about the AI capabilities. So with Inspector 8, we added some ability to generate what are called script summaries and generate embeddings. So you put in your API key in there. You put your information at the solution level, and what Inspector will do is it will generate a concise summary of a script, or it'll generate a more verbose version of what the script is doing. And this is a text-based summary based on the textual context of the script. So in this case, it's a 43-step script, but you can have scripts that are hundreds of steps long. And if you've inherited a solution, wouldn't it be nice to be able to look at something like this and just read a few sentences about what the script is doing to get a sense as to like, oh, okay, kind of maybe it's a system you haven't looked at in a while, etc. So so that's generating script summaries. And what we did in 9 is slightly different. Is that let me see if I put it here. Yeah, we disable the disabled steps are not sent to AI. We didn't do this in 8. We did this in 9. So the only thing that's being sent to AI for the summary are the scripts that are enabled. So so you just get a summary for what the scripts are that are actually active. I'm going to skip over this. I'm going to skip over in direction, talk about dashboards in Git, and then I think we'll be a wrap. Okay, so dashboards in Inspector, we have 2 dashboards. We have an analysis health dashboard and a changes dashboard. So like I said, every analysis tracks the number of items added, modified, or deleted. And so what you're looking at here is the ability to kind of hover over the dashboard view. So like I'm hovering over delete, so it's kind of bringing those into focus and dimming the other 2. I can also turn off the other ones so I can focus only on the ones that I want to look at. But if you hover on them, it highlights which ones that that are the active ones. We also have analysis health. So it's not showing here, but what it shows you is how many items added, how many items, calculations, and dependencies exist, and how many problems exist. And you can also filter that out so you can focus on, if you're reducing dormant items, or if you're reducing problems, so you can have a view to stay focused on looking at those trends. Let me see if I actually have, hold on one second. Here, do I have this here? Let me see, maybe I have a better example to show you problems. Oh, maybe that's not a good one. Hold on. Let me, okay, so looking at a live copy of this. Let me see if this one has it. No, this one. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that when you're looking at the analysis health, again, I could focus on the calculations and the item problems, and I could see over time if I'm actually improving code or you know, adding problems or you know, improving and solving problems. So I can focus on any one of these. If I focus on unreferenced code, I can also see if I'm removing dormant stuff and chiseling away at stuff that I don't need anymore. Okay, and then the last thing I want to cover is Git integration. So with Inspector 9, we have support for Git Hub and Git Lab. So you can choose your option there. So so for example, if I look here, there's a script that is has a problem. If I look at the current state in Git, I'll see the representation of this using a web viewer to pull in the current state of that script in Git. If I go and I fix the problem and then you know, make a comment there, I'll run it, I'll add a comment. And Alec presented this at where was it? On Richard Carlton. And there's a way to also have issues in Git, which you can then see. But here's the current state in Git, and now we see that that line there has a change. But we can also look at what is called a blame view. And so there's two lines there that Vince just made. So again, if it was another person, I would see the name of the person and the commit message. And then if you look at the changes, you can see side by side, or if you want to, you can also see them one on top of the other. But over here, I can mention one of my colleagues, and we can have a whole conversation about a single script step in this commit. And Alec could, you know, also point out something, you know, let's say it's an insert from you, or I'll call and he can mention that I need to fix something about it or whatever. And we can have a whole conversation on that one step, and it's all tracked in Git and exposed directly here in FileMaker. And like I said, you can view them side by side, or you can view them in a unified view this way. So you're leveraging the power of Git, but it's embedded directly in FileMaker, so you don't have to go to another, log into another website and go see the changes. So I'll stop there, see if anybody has any other questions, because there's a few things that we skipped over. And I'm at time, so.
Before we get on to the questions, Vince, thank you. Good evening, and thank you. That is truly amazing product. Really, truly amazing.
Thank you.
There are lots of questions.
Are there lots of questions? Sorry, I'm not
I
sure.
got one question. Why didn't you make this about 20 years ago for me?
Yeah, well, you know, I guess the XML had to come along. And
Exactly. We needed technology to do it. So it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's such a cool product. So good.
Yeah, a couple of things I would point out, because some people can get tripped up. There's a quick start guide. So the things to point out are, when you open up Inspector, put your activation code in, go and change the password for what is it? The OData password. Do not go into security, go to manage security. Because we removed the admin access, when you do that way, you'll get told that there's no full access account and you can't save it. Unfortunately, that's a bug with the way security works, in terms of, you know, once full access has been removed, you can no longer go there, although we've enabled that capability. So what you do is you log in with the OData password and just go to here and say change password, and then that's the way you do it. And then turn on OData, turn on allow plugins to be installed on server, and then you should be able to get it up and running, no problem at that point. But those are the couple of things that I've seen people kind of get stumble on a little bit. What are the other questions?
Are they ready?
Maybe.
Which model of 911 is that?
Hey Vince, I dropped a link to the presentation you did Dig FM. That was like about a 2 hour. So for anyone who missed any, because if you want the full version, there's the link.
Nice.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like I said, it's nice to see Douglas here as well. Claris is working on the XML, continues to work on the XML, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other changes are coming, and we'll hopefully we'll be integrating with those. But yeah, it continues to be exciting because they invest more energy in there, and hopefully that turns into faster, better results for the developer community to be able to use a tool like this. So, yep. Okay, so if no other questions, I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you all. And my email is, I'll put it in the chat, beeswax.net, vince@beeswax.net. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. And like Tony mentioned, there's a longer view of what I just presented because I didn't have time to present all the things. But there's more stuff. Anyway, cool. Thank you so much. Enjoy. It's free.
Thank you, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
Incredible.
That last part is very, very much worth mentioning. It's free, and
Thanks, Vince.
Knowing how much time you spend on this, that's like super amazing. So thank you very much for that.
I get.
Yeah. The reason is also for us is we want to build more awareness about this. Hopefully, Claris, champions it even further. But we're also looking to help people who have old systems. So if you have old systems, you have problems, and you need help with Git integration, we're happy to get on the clock to help you get it all set up. Alec is one of the smartest people I know to get it working like that. So benefit from his expertise. So just, shoot us an email. We're happy to help. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers, Vince. Thanks.
That brings us on to you, Gary.
It does. It brings me on to news. I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but there you go. It's so good.
Well, I'm going to leave it in your hands.
So I will present. This will be relatively short and sweet, I think, because I'll explain why in a second. Hopefully you can all see this. Fingers crossed. So as always, Penny does the news for me. You all will have known I've moved on to different job, different career, but Penny and I still keep in touch. And she's wonderful. She always helps me out with the news, which is great. So I wanted to kick off with some stuff. I know we had a session which was all about 2025, but she made a point of saying that some of the things that they were looking at, certainly at FP, is they've got to look at the minimum specs for 2025. When you've got a very large deployment like we had, when you've got 150, 200 users, you've got 120 odd iPads, you've got to be able to understand what the implications of upgrading is. So always the thing that always scared us when we were there is just like, well, when do we upgrade? And I'll be honest, we left it as late as possible. Purely we wouldn't move to a new version straight away because of that reason. It's a hell of a lot of work to upgrade. But the things I noticed is Sonoma is the oldest version that is supported, and bearing in mind we have Tahoe coming out probably tomorrow, so that's going to be out. It's how long that's going to be supported. I think realistically we've got probably a year, maybe two, of support in that any older version before you move up. So if you have large deployments and you work with companies, that would be good. Just have that on your radar, just something to think about. So it's when the user goes, oh, I updated my machine. Well done. You can't use now the old version, let alone any new ones. So you have to bear that in mind. Second thing is the Claris platform license in FAQ. She made a point of mentioning this, but Doug is here and I'm not going to steal that. If there's any questions about this, ask him. So it's nothing to do with me. I'm the messenger, don't shoot me. So my job is to pass on the message, and that's fine. There's some changes of what's eligible and what's not, but that's something. It's up for discussion, and that's all I'm saying on it. That's fine.
Gary, can I add something to this one? Because
Please do.
Yeah, so now that we all get Connect and Studio for free,
yeah,
that's impacting the platform in itself. And Claris really didn't take close enough attention of everyone that was starting to use Connect. So they've been having some problems with Connect. So don't put too much energy into starting a whole bunch of new things, because it's been crashing too many times lately, unfortunately. So hopefully they will fix that in upcoming weeks. But don't play around with Connect too much in a production environment.
Valid advice. Thanks, Johan. Cheers. So yeah, I'll pass that message on. Fair enough. The other one is what developers are excited about FileMaker 2025. There's a post here that has been put out, and I thought it was a really interesting read, because I think it's a really good article of what we always have the challenge when you've deployed a system with someone. And as we all know, FileMaker goes into a company. I can vouch there was a company I've worked for, and I don't think they've called me in about 5 years to upgrade it. So so it's pretty much, I'm sure it's running on the old version that I deployed and put in there 5 years ago, and they've vowed to never upgrade it, and they just trundle on. It's a great article. This is just a snippet of it, but if you have a look at this article, it goes into what are the benefits of someone upgrading from FileMaker, let's say 16, FileMaker 17 up to the latest version. What will they get out of the box for that? And there's a huge amount of features. We all know, we've been part of the community for long enough. We know what's come over those years, but it's a great way to then put that in front of a company that's still stagnating, not moving. And you can go, look, here's all the benefits you will get. You'll get OData, you'll get JSON, you'll get all of these things. They may not understand what they are, but at least gives you an onboarding process to have a discussion with them and say, look, the new version is better. So that's a really good article. I thought it was great. It's compiled, it's been put together for you to use, really. Just download it and use it. So. Obviously, Claris Engage, but I'm not going to steal that show because that's going to be spoken about later as well. But I just wanted to put it out there. There's the videos there of the keynote presentations and stuff that are available on YouTube. I take it you all knew about it, but it's for the other people that then watch this back at some point in the future and they can see it. They've got reference tools there. And then the final slide is the community one. I thought this was good. I watched this, the hidden dangers of running outdated Claris FileMaker. I think this is a theme that Claris are trying to push to go, look, you need to upgrade. Everyone needs to upgrade. They have a very good upgrade percentage. And I think Rosemary goes on and talks about, I think it's about 75% of people using the latest version in most instances. They do upgrade. But it's those 25 that just are stagnating. And then what's the impact of when you're running old code? That thing could be, well, you're using an old client and then you're connecting to a more modern server, etc. There's issues behind that. We know there's pitfalls, but I thought it was a good video to then mention what some of them are the problem. Rick goes into some of those and saying the do's and don'ts and things you should and shouldn't do. Some of them are obvious, but some of them are a bit scaremongering as well. So, but a decent video to watch. And then I just wanted to put this up because I was doing the news, I was going through it and I was thinking, my God, what can I do? So I just want to put this thing. I've given this list to Jill to put on the site because Penny came up with this amount of news this month. So there is so much news she pulled together. It's amazing. And I can't praise her enough for doing it. But I've got a file which all of these are links to all of these articles. She's collated it all together, all the history stuff. It's what she's constantly reading to be up to date. But you'll see if you can read some of these, there's a plethora of information here. And she's consolidated it all into one document for all of you with the links already attached. So I will be sharing that with Joel, and he's confirmed he can get that on the site for us. So so it should be a great reference tool for the month. If she does it again at the next event, I'll be shocked there's that much news, but there you go.
Then
And to follow on from that, as always, we have a donations page. Just keep us going afloat. Some of you have done this before and helped us keep going. We really do appreciate it. And if you can, you don't have to, you're not obliged to. We just put it out there that if you'd like, it does keep the wheels turning and keeps the lights on, which helps us out. So And to follow that on, there will be more discussions at the end of this, as always, in the virtual bar. So that is the news. It's a whistle-stop version, but that's what it is. And then it's Johan is next, if you're ready, mate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As always.
I don't know, but always. But whenever I'm here, I really like to be prepared a little bit. Let's see. Let's share that one. Give it a go. So everyone seeing something that looks like a PowerPoint slide?
Perfect.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to talk about two new features in FileMaker 22 that I really think should rock the world for you. They're native and they can do some fantastic things. I think I met most of you before. I saw Sam, maybe we need to shake the hand sometime. I don't think we met before, so nice seeing you. But most of you other guys, I think I met in England or another conference back or forward somewhere. Good seeing you all back again. So let's give it a look and see what Claris actually have created for us. So the function get record IDs from a found set. It gives you the found set of records, but it's IDs. So the get record IDs is the internal ID that we might be using. So for those like Gary, who's creating a whole bunch of this web stuff, they probably do all the stuff towards the record ID, because that's the closest that you have to the heart of the record. So now Claris are giving us a function to get close to the heart of the record as well. And here comes the good and cool things. There are 5 options to using this function. The first one, just adding a 0, will give you the value number of the list separated by carriage return. So it will look like this. And if you look closely, you can see that these records are not in the record ID order, meaning they're actually sorted. So FileMaker would even know which order your record are in right now, and will give you that list in the same way. Second one will be to give, if you add a number 1, will give you a JSON array with the values of the string. And we all know what we can do with JSON, so JSON is probably preferable than getting them in the carriage return. But we can also get them at JSON numbers, and then you see there then the numbers are smaller and we don't have to save as much data. So if I were to compare these two, I will definitely choose this one. And again, you can see that the record IDs here are in their sorting order of the records. Third option, and here comes the really good part of it. It uses ranges of records in a row. So record 21 to 33 are actually giving up less space because it will keep track it for you. And think about having thousands of records. This will actually save a whole bunch of time for you. And then last is my favorite, where you get it in JSON. And if I were to pick one out of this one, I would use this one, 99 out of 100, because it's JSON and I can work with JSON so much better than everything else. But there are 2 functions. So this is just the first one for you to collect the record IDs that you're on right now. The second one is that we want to use that list of records to either go to them or show that information in a portal or go to a related record. And that's the new function called go to list of records using the record IDs. And it will pick up any of these 5 options that you have here. You don't have to specify that. You just need to show that information, and then we'll show you that information in your layout. So I created a little simple FileMaker function here. I took a FileMaker template file, and I thought I made an example of what you can do. So I added a few records, and here I've searched for, so I have a found set of 2. And there's a portal here with their phone numbers, their email, and the addresses for each one of these records, as you can see here. In the template file of contacts, you will get a contact list and a detail, but I added a list and a detail, email list and detail, and address list of details to make it clearer as an example. If I go to the list here, you can see I made the same thing of 1, so I show 8 out of 10 records. Here I have 7 out of 9, and here I have 4 out of 10. My first example of how I would use this is that I always have the 2 scripts as triggers on first window open and on last window close. And what I would like to do here is I'd like to use the onLastWindow to save the found set of records that this user actually had when it closed the solution. So it becomes much easier for the user to open up the solution and see its record straight away, and even being on the right record when they finish the day. So what I'm doing here is, for each one of the different tables, I go to the list view and I see whether or not there are any records in the found count. And then I save those records into a variable. And for each one of the different tables, I give it a name. And in this case, it will be contact because we're on the contact list. And I use the function get record IDs from found set and the for, meaning I'm using this one. This is the result I'm going to get back. And then I do the same thing for address. I do the same thing for email and for the phone list. And once that is done, I'm going to need to save that information somewhere. So I'm going to go to a users table. I'm going to use my username to find the record that I'm on. If no record exists, I create one. And then I'm going to save that information to the last window closed records field with the variable that I just created or set during that script. And then the file will normally close. And let's see what happened when we run that script now then. So I'm just going to run the debugger. And we're going to go to the list view. Here is the list view. We get 2 out of 5 records. So we're going to save that information. And if you look into the data viewer, it will look like this. So we have the record 3 and 5. And it's JSON. And we keep going down here. And we do the address list. And here we have 4 out of 10 records. So it's going to save those records in the data viewer. And we're going to be looking at the same thing. But in this case, it's called addresses. And here we have the range because lucky for us, it was 7 to 10. So there's 4 records, but it's only giving us 7 to 10. And I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to just run through them here to show what it looks like when I actually save it. So normal find is layout, find my record, store that information, and commit. After that, FileMaker will close its file. And to make this visual for you, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that all records are in the found set for each of the different records. So as it was if the file was hosted on FileMaker and reopening it like anyone else would. And then I would run the on first window open script that you set in the file options. It will go and get your username and find that record that we just stored that information that now holds the address, the contact, the email records, and the phone records. What I will then do is I will pull out for each of the different tables, I will pull out the information. So first, I'm going to get the information for the contact, and I'm going to use that part, contact, as you see here, JSON get element for this variable that we set here. And I'm just going to grab the contact information. And I want to go to specific layouts. I want to go to contact details. So look, now we're on a user table and we click on that script step. We end up seeing these 2 records and we are ending up on that records where we were when we left the solution. Next one, we have the phone. So we go and see the phone records. We get 8 out of 10. We do the same thing for emails, 7 out of 9. And same thing for the address where we get 4 out of 10. And we wanted to go to the layout where we were finishing, so we end up on the contact details, and this could be a calculation that you bring along. And that's it. Now, we have made it possible to save your found set for your users so they can easily get us started and save a lot of time from picking up where they left the day before. Second scenario would be that I'd like to save this found set and I'd like to reduce it. So here I created a portal of different found sets. So I can go to those found sets and see other records. Let's give it a go. There is a 1 out of 2 instead of that one. And here is 1 out of 5. What we can do then is we can save these found sets into a record that we'd like to store. And let's give it a try and search for anyone with the letter L and the first name. So we only had one that wasn't fun. Let's do B in last name instead. So we have 2 out of those records. And we like to save that found set. So we're saving that found set of records. without storing any snapshot links or anything, but instead we're storing it in a FileMaker record, and I'm giving them an option here to save a found set by name. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say that the name was B in last name. And once that happens, it picks up the records, as you can see. So we get the context where we want it to be, and we get the record IDs from found set, and again, we're storing it with JSON. We are now putting it in a new window that's all the way up and down there because I don't want to see it. So the height is 1 and the width is 1 and it's minus 100 and the left 100, so we don't show it. Create a new record, we store the information, say that it's for me and where we want to go, commit the record, close that window, and refresh that portal. Now we have a new one here. That one we can reuse anytime we want to show information. But the third option here would be, maybe I'd like to share that. So now Gary wants to share that with Penny. So Gary clicks on this button and say, I'd like to share that with whoever, with Mark here, for example. Then that record is sent to Mark. So whenever he picks up, he will be able to see that record in the found set and easily can click on that one. So he comes in and then he sees this record and can click on that one and get the same found set in the same order and end up on the same record as I send it to. Third one, or fourth one, that would be using this function as a function for you to use using perform script on server. So in a triggering script, you save the record found set of where you are. And in this case, I'm using the layout name as well. So I can use any layout as I want. This becomes 100% dynamic. Then I just send along that parameter to run the script on a PSOS to do anything, looping, creating records, do found set, create reports, create PDFs, whatever you might need. But I just send along this information. And then everything will be done on the server. And as we know, everything, most of the things that are run on the server are faster than running it on a client. So what happens here is that I pick up whatever came out of this parameter that I send along, and make sure I go to that list of records with a parameter of what was in the list and to the layout that I send along as well. That means that I will have exactly the same records and I'll be staying on the same record as I was using as a user. One other really, really cool thing about the get record IDs and go to those list of records is it's so much faster than using our regular go-to related relationships there, where we probably are using like IDs or text or whatever it might be. This is so much faster. When I did test about 10,000 records, it was in between 5 to 8 times faster every time I tried it. Because it's, again, the record IDs are closer to the heart of the records we are trying to get to. So these two functions, get record ID from found set and using it together with go to list of records, is something I think you should look into and learn more what you can do with it. And I already implemented this in several of my solutions that I have for clients, and then they're really, really happy with what it's doing. It's even replacing some of the old relationships that I had because this is so much faster. Yeah. Questions on those two?
I've got some questions. You changed life. I can see this being used easily. So the solutions we've got across the whole company, as you all know, but we've got like the web load team that are then asked to change a load of fields for, they're loading close to about, 3,000 to 5,000 products a month on the website. So it's a lot of products. So as you're going through that, you could have all the buyers that are looking at going, right, we found an error with these 30 records that have been created. They can batch that, share the ID straight to the load team. You've created a link for them to go, right, here's the 30, 40 records you have to do. Whereas before what they're doing is they're copying all the IDs, exporting the IDs out at the moment, sending them out to them saying the following IDs need updating. I mean, you could create smart lists to say, oh, you've got the supplier wrong on these records, you've got the manufacturer wrong on these records. You create those smart lists very quickly by using the scripting, pass it over, and you've just created a task list for everyone to use. That's just game changer, absolute game changer. So good. I like the way you can share it. I love the way you can just, with a bit of scripting, bit of thought, you can just go, I'm going to share that with another user. That's perfect.
I think the snapshots link kind of lose its purpose once we can do this instead, because it's so easy to implement for anyone, and then you don't have to make a Windows user understand the snapshot links file reference, because we have to do that manually a lot of times.
The question I want to ask you, if you're sitting on a record and then there's related, you can get the IDs from the related table set, I take it. So it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can say, go to this portal, pull the IDs out of that portal, and that's good enough. Fine. Yeah. Really.
A funny thing as well is, like, say you had 100,000 records and someone deletes 10,000, 12 records. It will not give you an error. It will just show you those records are left. So we will handle that as well. We just go there and show those 8,942, whatever it will be, and straight off.
Right. And you're saying from a performance point of view, because we've got various scripts that are going to show related records in scripting, because they've gone through a process, and part of the script, they get there and you go, right, now I need to see the dependencies off of those and then act on those. And you're saying you're seeing a 5-8 times speed increase of doing that. So
exactly, yeah. So any relationship that I tried, small, big tables, everything was 5 to 8 times faster.
Wow.
And I think that Honza had done some ridiculous tests on this, and from what he emailed me, all his tests was really good as well.
And I agree with you, but the benefit of doing it this way is you can get around the limitations of doing stuff that you always had to do on client. You can do on server, which is that we know, if you can offload to the server as much as you can, just offload, because 9 times out of 10 is sitting there idle most of the time.
Yeah, so when you offload too many scripts to the server can't really handle it, because it's multi-threaded, but not too multi-threaded. So it will start queuing up on the scripts that take a little bit longer. So what we're doing instead is that we are creating script queues. And sometimes we have 2 or 3, and they will just take script by the time and do the job for you to make sure it's handling all those records. And now that we have it so close to the database and the record itself, those script queues will start running faster.
Yeah. Very neat. Very cool.
Yep. Any other questions?
Tony.
Yes, thank you. So I'm learning something here today. This is actually one of my top features, favorite. And I'm looking at the help page in real time because, and maybe somebody wants to update this. It says returns record IDs from the current found set as a list. And then I'm reading the whole page. Maybe I'm missing it. It does not say returns the record IDs from the current found set or returns the record IDs from the portal that you pointed to. So I guess it's a two-part thing. One, clarification. If I'm sitting on a parent and I've got child records of, invoices, cash receipts, whatever the heck, can I truly use the get record IDs from found set function? That's a function, and point it at the portal table occurrence, I reckon. And will it indeed bring back the record IDs from the related table? Or, and by the way, if you're doing it with a list view, okay, all right, that's great. Johan, I think what you're doing here is you're mixing the new feature with some old school techniques.
Yeah.
Which is great, which is brilliant. Okay, no, that's great. Okay, I thought I maybe missed something. I thought maybe the documentation was incomplete. But apparently it means what it says. It gets record from the found set current context and does, but of course, like you say, list view. So because I really is my favorite feature, this idea of passing found sets around. And I was looking at this and I'm like, this is great because it gives you speed. And by the way, thank you for the benchmarking there, 3 times faster. That's good. We'll take that. It does seem as if to get the most juice out of this feature, you're going to be doing what you're doing, which is blending some of the old school techniques, like referencing the things that a lot of people have been doing, which is, getting your calculated record IDs and mixing them and matching them and cooking up some smorgasbord of good things.
Thanks for bringing up the Swedish words and us.
Yeah.
Perfect. I agree with you, Tony. I kind of miss the option here of getting related information. If that was the case straight away, not just saying from the found set, but getting from related record, maybe someone will create a new one, get from a related found set.
Yeah, and you just pick the table instance that you want to get
Yeah.
it from, and that's it. It'll go get it.
Yeah, so I'm on the order. I'd like to say all the order rows, and then it will be get record IDs from related found set, and then you pick that, and then we'll pick all the thing for you. I don't know.
That was my initial question, is the fact they're sitting on a parent record and they've got child data, is can they get to that? But worst case, you could always just go back to the parent record, and they're on the layout anyhow. It depends what they're going to do with the child data, whether they need to change it. If you've got a data entry window where you've got a master window and they change the child record live, you can just bring them straight back to where they were and they can continue working. So I don't think there's any hardship in that, but I think that'll be a nice feature add to go find related record set.
Yeah, I agree.
Really cool.
I got to unmute. Let me just add one more thing. Yeah, that would be good for the other feature. Bit of a crowd pleaser there. Obviously, we just took a survey. The other thing, just worth noting, the speed. I mean, this is brilliant because it's baked in. Missing pieces doesn't give you the ability to restore the current record. Restores the found set, assuming it didn't change. Doesn't do the current record. So that's, something else to either add manually in the current 2025. The other thing that it does do quite brilliantly, and this came up at the DigFM meeting Vince was demonstrating, it magically restores the sort order.
Yep.
Without having to add any tricks. You can do it if you had a field, but this restores the sort order. So well done, FileMaker, and more to do.
Yeah, what would be nice to have as another option besides just type would be to also remember what record you were situated on when you got started here.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe the window size while you're at it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So you can obviously do that, Tony and Johan.
Do you mean you can totally restore the current record.
You can add a whole bunch of more information to the information that you're storing along in their array.
Yeah, wrapper code.
But the issue is, so you can kind of go, I'm on the 5th record out of whatever this found set is, restore the found set, go to the 5th record, because you can go to record by number. What it doesn't preclude is if in the meantime, between you saving the set and wanting to come back to it, somebody's deleted one of the records, and you say, I want to go to the 5th one, and somebody's deleted the very first record, then you would be on what was the 6th one, not what was the 5th one.
But surely all you do is you write into your variable the record ID that you're on, and then you go straight to that record ID. It doesn't matter if they delete.
Yeah, but all of those mean that there is a little bit of work to do with some custom functions to say, here's a list. It means you have to store the list as that list, because when you store it as a range, it's not so easy to have a custom function say, oh, where is this my current record ID? Where is it in this list of records?
You just need the record ID. You don't need
exactly, and then you can go to the calculator record.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that only takes you to the record number, not to the ID of the record.
But yeah, Johan, I think it's much smarter to save it in the array as like you clearly say this is the record ID I want to end up on. And if that one's not included, then you're just going to end up on the first one. And then any other case, you're going to be on that record and go to the related record like calculation.
I posted some bad code for everyone to look at. It really is bad. I wrote it recently for a real world use case. I have a button where I'm doing some invoicing recently, and I want to go show me all the invoices for the same client, but I want to land on the invoice that I was looking at. So this is actually relevant. I was thinking, hey, this is relevant. So it's bad code because it's pre-2025, but also even my pre-2025 implementation is wrong. I'll leave it as a puzzle. It's not that hard. This code could be refactored as of 2025 to be 100% context independent, which would obviously be good. Context independent code is good for the library. And also the names suck, but whatever, you can make it better. You can, sorry about the word.
Yeah, so this is exactly what I do here. I actually save where I'm going from by get layout name. So it becomes 100% dynamic, because then I can use that one to use the parameter to go through and then pick the layout from the variable that I send along in JSON.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't have duplicate layout names, which would be evil.
That's
that would be evil.
Bad practice.
That would be.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
I like this feature.
Yeah, me too, a lot. It's kind of hit. For me, it's a hidden gem. I don't think Claris actually spent too much time promoting this one.
Well, I think you're doing it. Your use cases were spot on. I mean, I think you rattled off 3 why do I care use cases, or maybe it was 4. So that's what we do, right?
Well, I've just posted all the links to Penny literally now. Said you need to have a look. So.
Yeah, good, very good, very good. I think I also got a small portion of time here to talk about another thing, about the thing that are in competition a little bit with what Tony is doing.
Sure.
What do you got?
So I'm the host of the conference EngageU. So for those that have not yet signed up, we're hosting the biggest EMEA conference this year. We already have 175 attendees, and we're gonna expect it to be at 250 or something before we get into the session. We got a almost filled agenda already. We have Juliana, Robert, and I assume Doug is gonna be there as well. Plus Marie and Norman. And then as you can see, we already have some really cool speakers, and the subjects or topics they're going to be talking about is going to be very cool to learn more about. It's a 3-day event, so we have a pre-conference training with people, Matt Navarre or Sarah and Marcelo doing cloud or AI or cloud connect, sorry. And then it's a full conference. We rented an entire brewery in Antwerp for Sunday evening, so it'll be free beer for the full night. Gary, you can't miss that. Yeah. We have a state-of-the-art dinner at a conference in a ballroom. And yeah, you should really come. It will be great.
If I wasn't on holiday, I'd be tempted. So, I do apologize. I will get to one. I know you and I have spoken regularly about it, but I will get to one soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Been to one already. I can thoroughly recommend it. I'm really disappointed I can't get to this one for various reasons, but yeah, you should definitely go. Absolutely.
I'd also like to shortly note, for everyone that's been starting to look into 22, one of the bigger things that FileMaker really pushed on in this release is OData. And my company Square Garden is going to be hosting John to host and talk more about OData. So I'm going to post a link here if you'd like to be a part of that one on Friday, totally free. Just sign up and join on Friday.
Cool.
He'll be talking a lot about how we get to know OData a lot more, and we need to, because that's also a big step to take. And I think that was pretty much everything that I had on my mind today.
Superb. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to find my agenda, which is over there. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Johan. I'm afraid I missed your presentation, but I shall look at it on the video again.
Trust me, you want to watch that one.
I do want to watch that one. I've been really looking forward to it. I don't know what happened then. My machine just went completely screwy. Okay. We have Doug's update, if Doug's around somewhere. Is Doug around anyone?
He is. He's here.
Hi everyone. I'm just closing up Windows. So I was going to talk about stuff that we have, just to make sure everyone's aware, new stuff that came out with FileMaker 2025. There was so much stuff that basically was kind of hard to actually put everything on the website. We did the community live sessions where we talk about most of the new stuff. One other thing that we kind of talked about, but still people are getting confused, is the changes that we've done to the licensing. So I'm just share my screen. I'm not going to talk about money, just basically some of the. So with the launch of FileMaker 2025, what we decided to do was basically give access to Studio and connect to all our customers. The problem that we had was basically is we had a lot of people, well, a few people basically on Connect, not a lot of people on Studio. We had ways for people to buy Studio and Connect, but they were kind of confusing. And the problem is we spend a lot of time creating Connect and Studio, especially working with Studio, and actually no one was actually using it. So in the last 9 months, we went through what was the biggest problem that we had in Studio, and what really came out of it is the fact that it was such a pain to connect a Studio account to a FileMaker database or server, or be able to actually exchange data between FileMaker and Studio. No one was willing to actually sort of be able to actually use it. So we had to actually do work both on the technical aspect of how we make it easier for people to connect FileMaker to Studio, and on top of it, how we make sure people can actually start playing with it to actually sort of maybe have use cases and see what they can do out of that. And the thing is, we've done that with FileMaker for so many years. We kind of lost the knowledge of how to do it with new software. So when you get a FileMaker contract, whenever there's a new update, you'll get it straight away. You might not use it, you might use it on a daily basis, but basically no one was really worrying too much about that. So when we have like new features on FileMaker Web Direct, everyone's getting it. Some people use it, other people don't use it, but at least basically they know they can understand, they can use it. With Connect and Studio, it's kind of different because you had to purchase on the side. It was really confusing. So we said, let's put everything together. So now what we're doing for both customers on FileMaker Server, on-premise, or FileMaker Cloud is we created 2 tiers. There's going to be eventually a third one, pretty much in the middle. But the idea is you have an entry level, and then you have a heavy usage specifically for cloud services. The idea is that everyone that has a valid contract with FileMaker, so anything to do with annual licensing, but on FileMaker Server and Connect, perpetual licensing with the maintenance, anything that has Pro, Go, and FileMaker involved, and there's not a strange contract with us, we'll actually get access to Studio and Connect with no additional cost. There's a couple of licenses that basically don't get it. So the FDS, because the FileMaker Developer subscription is for FileMaker development, essentially. It doesn't actually sort of do anything else. So eventually we'll move and we'll get the FDS to be transformed into a Claris platform developer subscription. We're not doing for concurrencies because of the way that Max works, especially in terms of the views. It will be very complex to be able to control that. SBA is, again, a different discussion because for SBAs, we have to validate all the solutions that are being put on the system by the partners. So with Studio, we're working on the system around that. And then we have like enterprise licensing, which are very strange. In a lot of cases, we'll just wait a few more months to see what we can give them. So essentially is if you have a valid server contract, you already get starter. What we're doing until basically month of September is we are removing pretty much all the limit from the starter pack. So you can have a lot more Connect flow running. You can have a lot more unlimited basically views on your Claris Studio. And the idea for people to actually start playing with it. The other thing is if you're a Claris partner, you already got access to this. So roughly about 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, we sent all the partners an NFI license. Some of you used it, others didn't use it. So if you want to get access to Studio and Connect, you're not going to go through your and ask your Claris sales or Claris support. You just basically need to go to your partner manager and say, I want to start leveraging Studio with my NFI license as a partner. They'll give you access and you'll be able to actually sort of play with it. On the Claris partner NFR, there's no real limits on Connect and Studio. You can basically use it as much as you want for your internal purposes. Obviously, if you're using it for customers, then that's what you get sort of being charged. So this is the license pretty much aspect of it. In order for Studio and for FileMaker to start working properly together, we had to do some work on Connect and Studio. Essentially, what we did on Studio was a way to be able to actually have direct access from a FileMaker file in Studio and vice versa, the Studio instance, be able to actually talk and manage the FileMaker solution. And at first, we used the ESS Plus. So basically, it was a transformation where it was taking the FileMaker text field with the information, transform that into JSON to send that to MongoDB, trying to do some synchronization with old ODB stuff. It wasn't really working because it was really too slow. And at the same time, the other issue that we had was with the data API, because the data API that we have is something that we created, and even though it's based on the norm of how an API should be sort of used, the problem that you have is if you have, I don't know if an example it has, but if you have like portals, it's using double colon, and it's using basically quirkiness from FileMaker inside the FileMaker data API, which is making it difficult for FileMaker developers to use the data API because there's some weirdness. And it's making it really hard for people from the outside to start to be able to actually use FileMaker as a data source because they have to understand how FileMaker works in order to actually start using it. So with the FileMaker data API, you have to understand the difference between a table occurrence, a table, and a layout, and how you actually call a table occurrence in a layout. It gets very confusing. The thing that we have worked over the years is actually on OData. And the more we were basically playing around with OData and all the stuff that we could do with Studio, the idea really went from we have to actually support the latest version of OData because it's going to allow us to actually get Studio and FileMaker to actually start working together. And on top of it, there's so much more stuff that we can do with the OData protocol that it's going to help us in the long term be able to bring new features. So in Studio, what we did basically is we created a new option called data sources, where you can actually create an easy link between your Studio instance and FileMaker files. All you have to do is you can just create new. In terms of data sources, for now, there's only FileMaker server, FileMaker cloud. The update will come very shortly, so you'll be able to actually use that. And on top of it, the idea is to potentially say, well, if you want to use another OData server, then you should be able to actually connect that. So for now, we're just supporting FileMaker products. In the future, we'll have other databases stored. All you need to do basically is put your URL for your server, just leaving basically the OData sort of address, the credential, and when you type those in, it will basically get all the apps from that server. It will show you all the apps, but it only show you basically the tables that the user with that password has got access to. In FileMaker server, you've got to make sure that the OData tab is activated, and you've created an account that have the FM OData privilege set basically enabled, so they can actually start using it. Once you've got the connection, so basically it's fetching. So I've got two files on this server test. The first one's called AI training. There's no OData file, and that user account doesn't exist, so it's not going to show you any of the tables. And then you've got the list of all the table occurrences, they're not really tables, where you can go. And the one I'm actually thinking is one. So when you click on it, you have this small button that allows you to actually modify the mapping. So basically it's taking a FileMaker file field into a Studio field. And in Studio, we have a lot more field types. They're not really field types, they're field types with a bit of CSS and HTML to make it nice, but there's more stuff. But basically, we've got stuff like email addresses, phone, long-term, short text, and you can actually modify that. If you're synchronizing a timestamp, it's going to note the timestamp, so it's going to basically use that straight away. And then if you have an attachment contained in FileMaker, it's going to pick up basically that is an attachment for Studio. What it doesn't do is it doesn't allow you to actually completely transform a field into kind of a new Studio field. So I've got this organization one. I can put it into short text, long text, but I can't actually have it using like the single choice option inside the Studio and stuff like that. So if you want to do some modification, you'll have to actually do it afterwards inside of Studio. And when I click save, it basically allows, and it's going to basically do a quick sync. The way it's syncing is basically using the OData protocol to be able to actually sync back and forth. If you could check out the logs in your FileMaker server, you'll be able to actually see what it's doing. The IP address pretty much is always in the same range, so 3.65246, and then a list of numbers. This is the AWS instance or AWS data center that we use in Frankfurt. I think the whole range belongs to Apple. The rest is part of it, is some of the services that we use. Obviously, if you're based in the US, you'll be using the AWS account from Studio in the US. And if you're based in Australia and stuff like that, it will use the one from Japan. But that way, it's a nice way to be able to actually sort of track what's going on when it's getting data and stuff like that. So when you've got the synchronization, when you click on it, basically it gives you a really basic spreadsheet view. So you can't do much to it. You can create a few new fields if you want to, and they'll get replicated inside your FileMaker solution. But if you want to see more data, zoom, you just need to basically go into your hub, and then from that you just create a new spreadsheet, and then you can actually have all the information out of that. The one thing is always important is when you're doing that, the source of truth is always your FileMaker solution. So if you're creating a new field and you can see it in Studio, but it doesn't come in FileMaker, it means basically the synchronization hasn't worked. It could be various sort of issues. It could be sometimes that based on your fields inside your FileMaker solution, it's having issue creating the new entry, but it's using your data. So in most cases, it should be working. And that way it does a lot of work. One other thing that it's using basically is using a lot of a new support that we put in the data, which is the webhooks. So we're using a lot of stuff with webhooks between Studio, Connect, and FileMaker to get all of that kind of working. So when you're creating or synchronizing, it's not Studio really doing the synchronization. It's actually Studio through Connect, because we've put an engine inside of Connect that makes sure we synchronize the data flow between FileMaker and Studio. So this is my spreadsheet. And a quick example, basically, I created a form. So really straightforward, a couple of names. And if I go into testing mode, I'll just show you how it works. So you can just type any type of text, it will pick it out. We've made some changes for the phone number. So now it's picking out user locals, which it wasn't doing properly before. See if I mistype it, it doesn't like it. MAC address, job title, I'll just put dev, and then you can add an image. The limit for the upload to attachment, I think, is now 10 meg. If it's, I think, yeah, it's 10 megs. If you put more than that, it will basically come up with an error. And when you do submit, it basically sends it across, and then straight away in my FileMaker solution, it's been uploaded. The one thing at the end, now we've added a couple of stuff where you can actually get it to go to a different page when the form is actually being closed. It's all set up by the, next page, for the confirmation page, got access to where you want it to go. So we basically are trying to actually sort of get people to actually sort of play around with it, see what they can do with it. There is a new kind of way to be able to learn. So when you're logging in the first time around, you'll get the tutorials. There's a what's new page, all the new stuff that basically we're coming out on a monthly basis. And on top of it, there is a learning sort of journey to be able to actually figure out how to actually add the data sources inside the system as easy as it can be. The other thing that we kind of doing in all of that is on Connect. So we have those, we had those old connectors. So one for FileMaker Server, one for FileMaker Cloud. They were using the FileMaker Data API, which was causing some issues because we couldn't actually sort of do a lot of stuff that we can do with the OData protocol. So we created a new connector. We basically cover server and connect. Some of the work that it's doing is what we're leveraging for the communication between FileMaker and Studio. The two old ones, sorry, let me just create a new flow, it'll be easier that way. So we got the two old ones, so the cloud one and the server one, they put into legacy. So we're not going to remove them because we need to actually recreate everything. So we're just going to keep them for the time being. They just need to actually run on old servers. So eventually those will go away, but there's not a lot that you can do. You can actually just pretty much trigger a script. There's a few actions you can do. There's not a lot you can do. With the new one, basically, there's a lot more stuff that you can actually do on the action side of it because we're leveraging OData. So there's a lot more things that we can do. So it's a mixture of OData and data API in the background. And ideally is we're going to basically start increasing this. So there's a lot more stuff that you can actually sort of do through this connector. There is also a studio connector that allows you to actually sort of play around and do a lot of stuff. One of the examples that we're trying to do is to see whether we can get people to be able to create web portals for their customers, where you would be able to actually create a user for a specific amount of time. When they've actually filled in information, that user would get deleted, and then you wouldn't actually sort of have to manage too much the users. So currently in Studio, to manage the users, it's all kind of manual work from here. You can manually add people, but there's no way to be able to actually sort of do lots of upload. So the connector from Claris Connect is going to try to actually enable some of that work. One other thing that we're working on top of it as well is currently when you click on connection, it's going to open Claris Connect. One other thing that we're trying to do is to be able to actually have Connect open within Studio. And if that does work, maybe eventually have some of that inside of FileMaker as well in the future. So if you haven't started playing with it, if you're a Claris partner, if you haven't got your license, just go through partners@claris.com. Otherwise, if you have a license, either you got the email or you can start using it. The easiest way to be able to actually get to Studio is once you've actually updated FileMaker Server 2025, if you go to the admin part of it, if you have a VITE license, you'll see basically a Go to Claris Studio button. When you click on that, it fills your page. It's kind of straightforward. Basically, it's an API web call that takes out your license key, and then it fills in basically the owner of the license of the owner of the license. If you're working internally for a small company, it could be you. With a big company, that'll be the person, email address that you're used to. If they have an account, it will pretty much log you in straight away. Otherwise, it will ask you to create a Claris ID. And then once you have that, you can invite other people in your organization. The last one quickly is around AI services. So within the FileMaker Server 2025 release, we've integrated a model server to run on your FileMaker admin console. When we launched it, the one thing we were saying is because of the FileMaker license that allows you to actually have multiple FileMaker server installed, there is no need specifically to actually have your AI model server running on your FileMaker server with this data file. And on top of that, you shouldn't be doing it because in a lot of cases, the machine that you actually built to run your FileMaker solution has nothing to do with an AI model server. So for testing purposes, if you have a test server on a Mac Mini, that works really nicely. But apart from that, you should actually sort of do it. So this is my test server. It's running on a Linux box on AWS. It has no GPU. So if I were to run the model server, it will just basically eat out all the stuff. On top of that, we did work with a couple of Claris partners where we created a blog page to summarize a white paper that was pretty much written by Wim de Court and people from Soliant and a couple of PMs from FileMaker or Claris around the type of machine you should be sort of going for. So the white paper is about 25 pages and it goes through what you should be looking at and all the stuff that is important to understand when you're creating the AI server. The reason we're doing this on top of it is, especially for the partners, there's a Claris partner office hour this week. Globally, where Ronnie Rios is coming and myself. And one of the work that we're doing is to start helping customers and partners come up with an AI vision for their company and for their services. Because the thing is, everyone's talking about AI in the planet. Everyone's saying that 1 week OpenAI is great, and the next week it's a lot of rubbish, and then Anthropic and now is changing their policy and stuff like that. So everyone's sort of all the companies doing their own stuff, but we do find that all of whether partners, large customers, currently have no AI vision. They are thinking they want to use it, employees actually using it, but normally they'll have like personal account on ChatGPT to do all the work for them. The idea is to help partners and companies come up with this AI vision. So part of it is on the technical aspect of it, is the type of machine that you should be using, especially if you want to do on-premise AI servers, and if you have like sensitive data, or if you have a huge amount of data and you don't want to basically send it out to OpenAI or Cohere, where it's going to cost you a fortune and it's going to have a token issue when you send too much data, then you need to actually know what you need to build. And then during this week, when we do the CP hours, we'll talk about the kind of AI strategy you should be looking at, how it's going to basically help you move forward in the near future. And especially when you're going to have demand from customers saying, hey, can I have AI in my system? Then you'll be able to actually sort of help them actually work that. So all the work that we're doing, and even the work that when Vin was talking about, like the stuff we did on XML. So everything we did on XML or data, and is to be able to actually leverage in the future some kind of AI systems to be able to easily either go through your solution and help you create better scripts, help you create layouts quicker, help you fix issue with your data, all of that. So we are structuring basically a lot more of the work that we've had in FileMaker for a very long time that we never really touched properly, so that it could be understood properly by AI models, so that it can actually sort of work on it. So all the work that we do on XML, and it's taking a long time to get there, but we are doing in a way so that it's fully usable by tools like Inspector Pro or FM Perception, and on top of it could be fully leveraged using AI models, and we could do some stuff with the data to be able to actually do updates to that. So all the work that we're doing is long-term strategy, is to make your life a lot easier, to be able to leverage AI. And on top of it is, if we have a system that is easier for people from the outside to understand and leverage, we'll potentially get more developers coming to the Claris community. Hence, we grow the number of companies, potential customers, partners, and all of that. And it just makes everyone a lot happier. So a lot of the work that you'll see in the next year and so will be about adhering to standards, so that we can actually get people going. FileMaker is not that strange. I understand how the data structure works. I can work with it. I don't actually have to learn all the quirkiness from FileMaker to get it to work. That was my quick update. Just longer than expected, but I always take too much.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Thanks, Doug. Yes, any questions asked?
John, you have one.
Well, tomorrow comment, because obviously I am using Studio quite a lot. It's just for everybody else. The linking FileMaker to Studio, there is now a proper help document on how to do it. You have to have, on the server, you have to have the feature turned on where you're filtering files by user. You know, where you have to log into the server to see the files that you can then log into with your username and password. That may or may not be irritating for you. It certainly is on some of my dev servers, but you have to have that turned on for the Studio connector part to be able to see FileMaker as an active data source. It thinks it can. If you haven't got it turned on, it thinks it can, and then it just fails. But there is somewhere on the website, I'll try and find it in a minute and stick in the chat. There is like a proper help document saying, hey, you need to do this to make it work. But it absolutely does. You know, I have OData logs that are full of just webhooks thinking backwards and forwards all night. It's absolutely brilliant.
Cool. Anyone else got any other questions? Oh, Doug's here.
I got one. Doug, when playing with internal modules, so to speak, which you install on a separate machine, it would be lovely to get some kind of spec tracks of how big of a machine you actually would need, because right now it's kind of hide and seek to find the right one that will be suitable, and it could be rather expensive if you pick up a big one where you don't need one, and the opposite, of course. You don't want to have too much RAM or too much memory because that's very expensive. and at the same time you want your models to run rather fast?
Yeah. So we're not doing it currently. I know that the LM Studio kind of does it. Hugging Face on their website actually working on providing better information in terms of the machine that you should be using to run specific models. Because currently it's very vague, and the problem it's very vague, it's because no one's been able to actually create proper use cases to go, hey, if you're using that model, and it could be something click for images, and you have a library of 1 million photos, and you need to do updates on a daily basis, this is what you're going to need. And no one's done that because the thing is currently it's very, very new, and you've got like new stuff coming out on a daily basis. And on top of that, the biggest problem that we're finding is the big companies like OpenAI and Cohere, they don't even tell you the power that your request has actually used. So you haven't really got a clue of how much really it's costing OpenAI to run your embedding of 1,000 images in 20 seconds. So the stuff that we've got on the blog, it kind of tells you, depending on the model that you use, this is the minimum you need to actually have. But it's pretty much based on the size of the model. So if you have a 16 gig model, then you minimum you're going to need a 64 gig for the stuff to be able to actually work properly and not actually sort of crash out. So
the white paper goes into a little bit of detail on that, but fundamentally, you're going to need a pretty hefty machine. If you're running a Mac, they've got unified memory. In production, you're going to be looking at something realistically, anything less than, you probably want to go like Mac Studio, absolute minimum of 96 gigs. 256 gigs would be better. That's still going to run into memory issues in some cases with large models. And it's not just the size of the model, it's the size of the context window that you're passing to it. So if you pass in a context window of say 128, so there's two main components. There's the component of the actual loading the model itself, which takes a fair chunk. But then what you pass in the context window is basically cached locally. The FileMaker server doesn't give you any control over that. LM Studio does give you control over that. And the metric there is the KV cache. But to be honest, Doug's mentioned LM Studio, and frankly, just going with LM Studio instead of the FileMaker server is just going to be much better all around. There's one other thing that nobody's really discussed, and that is that most of these models, so LM Studio and Llama are based on llama.cpp. The FileMaker server, they're all basically, they can only handle one request at a time, which means that you're going to get queuing. If you think about a request, it takes several seconds to run. If you've got, say, 50 users working on a system sending requests, you're going to get a lot of queuing. And that's if even if they're talking to the same model, because in the case of the Claris server, it's going to need to unload and load a new model. So frankly, if you're dealing with any kind of large number of using and concurrency, you're probably going to end up looking at going with something like running in Bedrock on AWS. That's going to be, frankly, a much better approach than running your own. There's a lot of considerations and difficulty about running your own server. So with the white paper, I was one of the sort of the, I guess, contributors. So it was the main authors were Wim and Ernest Coe, and then Todd Geist and I and a couple of other guys from Geist were sort of spent, well, actually we spent a lot of time writing it. So the thing is that there's not an easy answer to what size of server do you need. And most FileMaker servers are not, aside from Macs, are not going to be equipped with a GPU, which is mandatory for this stuff. So running your own server or hosting it yourself is going to be expensive, no matter which way you look at it. From conversations with Todd while we're running it, basically he was saying that you could pretty much look at adding a 0 onto the end of your hosting cost to do effective AI hosting. So the fact that Claris is not providing this hosting kind of is an indication right there that it's going to be expensive and problematic.
And it's very new. I mean, if you look at the tendencies nowadays, now it's into the LLMs. Now they're doing SLMs because everyone's realizing that do we need like 20 gig models that we're going to train afterwards?
Now, like you can go, depending on what you're doing, you can go a long way with some of the smaller models, like the Gemma 4B model. If you're extracting data, it's really, really good for that kind of use case. But yeah, even there, you can end up using a surprising amount of memory. I've got where is it? I don't have it handy, but I basically did do sort of a comparison of how much memory is used and what you can actually run in the different size of models. So I used my 32 gig Mac Studio server as a test bed, and you could see that sort of as you increase the context window size, that things start to take longer. Not only do they take longer, but you would actually see at a certain size of query that things would start to fail. You'd either start just getting back just gibberish, or it would crash a machine. It's also worth pointing out that when these things crash a machine, like they crash it hard. They don't, like you basically have got like a frozen machine because they will just grab all the memory the machine's got, and it will not be a pleasant crash. You basically have to like just do hard reboot when that happens. So there's a lot to think about with that stuff.
Which certainly lends itself to don't run it on your FileMaker production server.
Absolutely, 100%.
Never.
For sure.
Yeah, 100% do not run it on your FileMaker production server.
We can come back to this in the bar if we need. But I think we're trying to squeeze your question in, Gary.
I don't know whether I can park it, but it's a really simple question, which I thought would be a simple answer, but it really wasn't. So little quick scenario: FileMaker server database on a LAN, closed circuit, can't have external access to it. I've got maybe it's going to be Click. It always will be. So I've got a Click model that is then requiring data from that. At the moment, the only way I can see moving that data out is using a cloud solution, i.e. get FileMaker to export the data out, and put it somewhere, and then have Click to pick it up from a cloud solution. So I was then talking to George about this and saying, well, okay, that's fine, but say, for example, I have sensitive information that I can't put to the cloud without punching a hole through my firewall and then getting Click to then access that, because Click is 100% cloud based, but you can then secure it in some way. There are ways to move the data with another server to then make it talk to each other. I was just thinking about the sensitivity. Has anyone got ideas about how you would go about grabbing data out? And if we're talking large amounts of data, I don't want to kill my production server. So as you mentioned something earlier and said, how about you synchronize the data to another server and then use that as a conduit to then grab the data from that? I'm just asking ideas. I'm literally thinking of ideas because this is probably going to come as a full circle eventually at my new company, who don't have FileMaker yet, but probably will do in time. But they do have Click, and I'm starting to look at data and how I'm moving things around, certainly with their data.
Write it to a private S3 bucket, because it's almost certain. I'd be astounded if Click could not read from a private S3 bucket.
It can read from S3, yeah, could do that.
So basically, if you export to your local disk, move it to S3 in a totally private bucket that's got not exposed to the public at all, and then Click could presumably use a pre-signed URL.
Click can pick up Amazon S3, so certainly you could do it that way. That's one way of doing it, yeah. I hadn't even thought of that, but that's fine. So
But
this is why I wanted to ask the question.
your network, is it physically closed to the outside, or is it just basically your firewall that's not enabled?
If the firewall is not enabled for security, they don't want any external access in. So they just won't, at the moment, and port 80 is about the only thing that's open on the firewall.
So nothing in, but you can get stuff out.
I can send stuff, yes, I could send stuff to a location. So it's more about what location would I do to send that? And certainly if the company then gets funny with me and says, well, I need it to be very, very closed and I need it to be very, very secure, that's the question I was asking, because I was thinking, where do I put it? I think the S3 bucket's not a bad shout in that respect, because then it will be totally private. Any other thoughts? If there aren't any other thoughts, you can also dwell on this and come back next session and tell me what you come up with. And I may already have the answer anyhow.
You'll probably need a port 443 to be able to securely talk to the bucket.
That should be okay, because that is pretty much, every firewall has normally 443 open, to be fair. 443 and 80 are the two that are probably open. Otherwise, you can't do any SSH connections or any secure connections at all. So I can check with the firewall and just have a check on that. But I would imagine those two ports would be open. So it's just an idea. I'm not there yet, but I know it's going to come. And I think in time I need to think about how that's going to happen. I would normally do it. My old place, we would have set up firewall rules and set up secure access ports to go in and out of the network and secure that as well as you can. And if you've got good monitoring on your network, there's not any risk in that. You can absolutely do it. That's why it's there. So
and Click doesn't have an agent that you can install on your server to actually sort of create a kind of data gateway between the two services. Like the stuff that we have at Claris Connect, we have the agent that you install that, and basically if you have a firewall, allows basically the two machines to actually sort of talk to one another.
Possibly. Click does have basically a conduit server which has an agent on it. So that would mean I have to move the data onto a resident Click server and then use that agent to talk to the Click cloud, which is what actually provides the licenses for everyone to use. But that's a cut down bit of information and data. I'm looking to expand that and put more data. At the moment, the data that's in there is not any risk. I'm not saying it's public knowledge, but the point is it's secure, but it's not threatening to the business. But no, absolutely. These are the things I want to look at. So I think I'll certainly look at the Amazon bucket, because I think that is an option, because that will be an absolute closed thing. And the only way you could get to that would be with the API key, which is very, very secure. So.
Gary, it also depends if you've got a file, so I understand a little bit about what you're doing, but if you're updating a file with the latest data by overwriting it, or whether you're adding new individual files. So let's just say 8 o'clock every morning, you add a new file from all of yesterday's transactions.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other thing about Amazon is you can create policies which will automatically delete the previous files. So it means you're not building a big data mountain inside AWS. You can just go, the data's only available for Click to suck into Click for a short length of time, and then we can delete it and replace it with some other data.
That's a good chat. Yeah, so I could literally build it that way. I've got webhooks in Click as well, so I could then also pass a command back once it's imported it into Click to then clear the file. That keeps it even more secure. So there's nothing, in effect, there shouldn't be anything in the S3 bucket until FileMaker's written the new file.
If you send the webhook back to FileMaker, then FileMaker knows if the data's come from FileMaker and you've used that to then upload to S3, you can send the webhook directly into FileMaker to then say, now delete this record and delete this stuff in S3 as well. Okay.
Brilliant. That's all I wanted. Just thought process. I'll go research and work out which things stick. I'll throw it against the wall. See what comes out. So, perfect. Cool. That was my question. It was really simple in my head, but I couldn't think of the logical answer. Cool.
Excellent. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up there and move to the bar.
Absolutely.
The right sort of moment to do that. Thank you to everyone who's presented, even those who've had to hop off, which I think is everyone but Doug. So thank you, Doug. And thanks to everyone else. So when you look back at the video, you can see me thanking you. Gary will no doubt have this video up soon.
I haven't done the other two yet, mate, but I will do. I will do. I'm being beaten on the other videos, so don't worry, it will be done.
I love to be confident, Gary.
Oh, yeah, we can all hope.
However, the news links are up on the website now.
Nice.
So you can go and see those on a button on the front page of the website. And we'll look forward to the next one.